Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Business Growth and Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Bill, the company's expert. And, everybody knows that my favorite drink is Diet Pepsi, but today I'm actually sipping a tea. That's right, sipping a tea like a pretentious snob. Actually, you know what? I don't drink tea very much, but this is not bad. I think I might have some more of this. I drink Diet Pepsi in those little clear glasses. I forget what you call the shape of the glass, but people assume that it has rum in it, like a rum and Coke. That is not the case. I like to maintain a clear head at all times. I'm not one of those people those business people, they go off to barbecues and campfires in the woods where they drink a keg and talk business. No, that's not me, and you'll never catch me at one of those things. But today on this episode, we're going to talk more about Lean, Six Sigma, and small business. The last episode I did was about Lean versus Six Sigma versus ISO 9001, and it actually got a little more views than I was expecting. So we are going to sort of continue that topic a little bit. I got a couple of questions. We're going to take one question from a viewer on this episode, and then we're going to explore some concepts in Lean and Six Sigma and the difference between startups and small business. So here we go. Okay, so first off, here's a question from someone called Godfrey Ernest Balon. And that's an awesome name. It sounds a little bit familiar too. I don't know if I already took a question from this individual, but Godfrey says, "Good day, Bill, here in Manila." Oh, right on, Philippines. You mentioned you're a black belt Six Sigma. Yes, I am. I am obsessed of taking a course and following your footsteps. Can you refer me books for starters? So I could be introduced to the said professional management venture. Hoping/anticipating to hear from you soon, Bill. Thank you. Stay safe, healthy, and more power to your podcast. Well, thank you very much, Godfrey. You are awesome for sending that in and for saying such nice things. Yes, I am a master black belt in Lean Six Sigma, and that sounds very fancy. It's actually not as fancy. It's kind of one of those slightly pretentious titles. The way it works is Six Sigma kind of has these levels, right? So at the sort of bottom end, you've got the green belt. And if you're a green belt in Six Sigma, that's what they call somebody who is trained in Six Sigma and has done a couple of Six Sigma projects. And they do Six Sigma as part of their job part-time. Okay, so they do use Six Sigma in their job, but they're not a full-time Six Sigma person. They're just a regular employee that does their regular job, but occasionally they'll do a Six Sigma project. So that's called a green belt. And then you can work your way up and become a black belt. And what that means is that you're a person who is trained even more on Six Sigma, and you do Six Sigma as your full-time job within a company. Okay, that's generally what that term means, a black belt. Okay, so there's green belt and black belt. And then you can go even further in some companies and you can become a master black belt. And usually what that means is that you're just a regular black belt, but you also teach Six Sigma too. And that's kind of your main role. You're like a champion, you're an evangelist of Six Sigma within the organization, and you teach it. Okay. So that's what a master black belt in Six Sigma is. Now, there was Six Sigma and there was Lean. Okay. These are two separate management initiatives, right? Six Sigma originally came from Motorola. It was the sort of playbook that Motorola used in I think the 70s to succeed and become a big deal. Okay. On the other hand, Lean was the thing that was used at Toyota. Okay. So Toyota used like all their internal practices and philosophies and, policies and things like this. They grouped that together and called it Lean. And that's what Toyota used to become the number one car maker in the world, essentially. Okay, so it's sort of like These are two different versions of a quality program. Lean is the Toyota way of doing things. Six Sigma is the Motorola way of doing things. Okay. And in the past, I've talked about a third one, which is ISO 9001, which is yet another version of a quality program. Okay. Coming at it from a different perspective. So for many years, these were kind of separate things. There was Lean and then there was Six Sigma, and they were quite different. Okay. And then relatively recently, like I think since the year 2000, I'm not sure who did this first, but some people started combining Lean and Six Sigma into something that they called Lean Six Sigma. And they would train people, and they would train them on Lean concepts and Six Sigma tools, and they called it Lean Six Sigma. So that's what that is. Now, Godfrey is saying, like, I'm obsessed. Can you refer me to books or a professional management venture? Here's what I have to say about this stuff. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a book. I didn't learn this stuff from books originally. I was trained in it, and they give you manuals and things. I was trained by General Electric many, many years ago in Six Sigma, and then I tacked on Lean years later. Now, I believe they still have this, I think it's a company called Gemba Academy, G-E-M-B-A, Gemba Academy. And I took their Lean training originally, like a long time ago, and it was very good. It was video-based, and I can't remember that much about it. It was video-based, and they also had like manuals and things like this, and you would take classes. And I believe that you can take that online, the Lean training from Gemba Academy. So I recommend that if that's still around. But the thing about Lean and Six Sigma is that this stuff, I talked about this on the last episode, and it's not accredited. So there's no accreditation body that ensures that anytime someone says they're green belt certified, that's standardized. Like anybody can do anything and print out a certificate that says you're, a certified green belt, and that's okay, So as a result, people have really exploited that, and you get all kinds of really crappy qualifications and programs out there that will technically train you in how to be a green belt or a black belt or a master black belt. And it's just a diploma mill, essentially. They're not really doing that great of a job, and nobody cares, right? The way that people get hired based on their accomplishments in Lean or Six Sigma is because you can say that you have a track record of doing Six Sigma or Lean-based improvements in your previous jobs. And they will try and verify that by either quizzing you on the technical details or essentially checking references and talking to your previous boss and things like this. So that's usually how this stuff is done. You're not hired a lot of times based on your educational qualifications. You're not hired because you can produce a certificate that says you're a master black belt, okay? But just going back to Godfrey's question here, now, full disclosure, for what it's worth, I have a certificate as a master, like as a black belt and a master black belt, and I got those from a place called Avita Business Institute, I believe it's what it's called. Avita or Avita. I'm just going to check. I got the certificate on the wall behind me. I'm just going to check it for a second here. Yeah. Avita, A-V-E-T-A, Avita Business Institute. And what they do is I think they train you. I can't remember. It's so long ago, but they'll train you on Lean and Six Sigma. At least that's what I took. And they'll make you do a couple of projects. And if you have a job where you can apply Lean Six Sigma principles to your job, and do a project, say a Six Sigma project, you can do the project at work and then submit it to these people for sort of extra credit. and they will go through it and see if you've done it correctly and all this kind of stuff. They did recommend a book on Six Sigma, but it was not very good to my memory, so I don't want to recommend that. But basically, if you're wanting to learn this stuff, I think you can learn a lot from YouTube videos, frankly. Like not mine. I haven't done many YouTube videos on this stuff, but there's some great videos out there that really visualize this stuff, what it is, how it works. And that's what I would recommend getting into first. And if you are still interested and you've watched a lot of videos on it and you do find it fascinating, then I would look into maybe getting a book on either Lean or Six Sigma. But yeah, now I don't know if I mentioned, but the term Master Black Belt, that just means that you teach it. Okay. So in colleges, I don't think I haven't taught Lean in university, but I have taught it in colleges, just kind of on the side for fun. And I put together some courses on Lean, and I've taught that to people going through college and like post-secondary education. And so that's also kind of how I was able to technically say I'm a Master Black Belt, because I've taught it within organizations and I've taught it in, one community college, I believe. So yeah, I haven't really done too much of it for the last several years, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating stuff. So hopefully that answers Godfrey's question there. Thanks, Godfrey. It's great to see somebody so interested in these rambling podcasts that I do. So thank you very much. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about today that I didn't make clear in, I think, my first podcast was the difference between a startup and a small business. A lot of people don't really know this. Hold on, got to have some tea. That's good. The difference between a startup and a small business. A lot of people seem to think they're the same thing, and they're actually quite different. Let me put it this way. A small business would be like a plumbing company, okay? And a startup would be something like starting Facebook or Google in your basement, okay? Now, what's the difference? Well, one of them, the plumbing company, first of all, it's traditional. It's a known thing. If you start a plumbing company and you advertise that, hello, I offer plumbing services, everybody already knows what plumbing is, and they know why they would need your services, and they realize why they would have to pay for it. Okay? So that's a small business. And in a plumbing company also, it's, I would say, impossible, but highly unlikely that you could have, say, 1 million customers. Okay. Now, on the other hand, if you're starting the equivalent of Facebook or Google in your basement, first of all, let's say Facebook. When you say to people, my Facebook service is up and running, so now you can sign up, people would probably stare at you blankly because they never heard the word Facebook before. They don't know what Facebook means. They don't know why they would need it. They don't know why they would pay you money or why anyone would pay you money for that. It's a completely new thing, right? And then if it does take off, and this is the defining part, if it does take off, you could easily have 1 million customers, 1 million users, or 1 million different advertisers giving you money. Okay, so that's a startup. Okay, so the startup there's a couple of things that define it. First of all, it's highly scalable. That means you can go from having no customers to having millions and millions and millions of customers, conceivably, okay? Whereas a plumbing company, you can't really do that, okay? It's not as scalable. Secondly, the startup tends to be something new. You're not just doing, another version of the same type of company that there are already 10,000 of in the world. You're doing something different, something new. Okay. That poses greater challenges because people are not familiar with it. There isn't an existing market for it. There isn't an existing group of customers lined up that will that you know who they are, you know how to get them to become your customer, and you know how to keep them. That hasn't been learned yet, okay? Because you're doing something completely new. So that's the difference between a startup and a small business. Startup is something innovative, something new, and new from the marketing perspective, not necessarily from a technical perspective, but from a marketing perspective, okay? Whereas the plumbing company has a lot of advantages. All you have to do is say, oh, I offer plumbing services, and all of a sudden, people know they need it. People flock to you and they pay you for it, because if they need it, they're aware of it. They know exactly what plumbing means, and they, it's a traditional thing. It's a known quantity. There are already standard places where you advertise. There are already industry associations you can join. There's already legislation and laws that govern plumbing, like the plumbing code. Like all that stuff is already established, and you're just sort of walking into it. Okay. So that's a small business. So these are two completely different types of business operation, and they require two completely different skill sets, two completely different ways of launching them, and two completely different expectations for how they're going to go. Now, I am of the opinion, and you guys might know this if you've heard my podcast before, I'm in favor of small business, because small business can be started without any money, really. You can sit at home, you can get on social networking, and you can instantly create money. You can make money, okay, by offering a product or a service. And usually that starts with the marketing. It starts with selling it first. Now, if you get a ton of people lined up saying, yes, we want it, here's our money, then it's worth putting the effort into creating the thing so you can sell it to your customers, okay? If you try and sell it and there's absolutely no interest whatsoever, then it doesn't make any sense to then spend your time, money, and effort trying to create a product that just you weren't able to sell, right? So that's kind of the small business approach. Now, the startup approach is something I haven't really talked about too much, because this is a much bigger challenge for people to do, okay? You are facing an even higher hurdle to try and get a startup off the ground. And the idea of a startup is that this is something that if it succeeds, it's going to succeed big, okay? It's going to be like the next Facebook, the next Twitter, okay? It's going to scale up very quickly. You're going to go from 0 to 1 million customers in a short amount of time. That's the goal. And this is where you enter the world of investors, venture capitalists, angel investors, this kind of thing. And where you really, really need to know what you're doing. It's very hard to succeed launching a startup, especially when you don't have any experience. You know, even for people that have a lot of experience, it's still very, very hard to do. It's like hitting a hole-in-one in golf. Okay, anything short of a hole-in-one, and you fail. Okay, that's kind of like the startup world. Small business is different. You know, you don't have to hit a hole-in-one. You can, as long as you hit it sort of towards where the hole is, even if it takes you several strokes or whatever they call it to get it into the hole, that's fine. As long as you get it in the hole eventually, you know, you can have 10 tries. It just means you're going to have a slow ramp up, right? It's an easier challenge. Okay. It's a more realistic challenge for a lot of people. But for startups, I mean, the skill set you need to make a startup work is, first of all, you or someone on your immediate team, and I don't mean employee, I mean your team, your group of partners that are in this together. Someone has to have incredible technical skills. Okay, whatever you're making, it's got to be innovative, it's got to be new and exciting, and it's got to work. Then someone has to have incredible marketing skills. Like we're talking, you know, heavyweight championship of marketing here. You really have to know people. Okay. And I mean, like, 1 in 1,000 people, you could take 1,000 people who think that they know the public and they know what people want, but I'm talking like 1 in 1,000, literally, can do this. They have that knowledge of people and knowledge of what they would like and what they would not like. And on top of that, if that isn't high enough, having those two things, you then have to have the knowledge of the financial world. You have to be able to get financing, because usually in a startup, it's going to take money, like serious money, to get it off the ground. So that's what amplifies your risk. Okay. So you've got to navigate that world, the world of high net worth individuals, the world of angel investors, the world of venture capitalists, if you even live in a part of the world where there is a community of those people. A lot of times there isn't. That's why in places like the United States, a lot of those companies congregate in places like Silicon Valley and Boston, where the financiers are located. The talent comes to the money. Okay. If you happen to be stuck all the way out in the country somewhere, you're in the Midwest or you're in some other place where there isn't a huge community, it isn't a beehive of activity in the startup world, it might be just almost an impossible task. You might have to relocate to a place where that industry is located, right? Like Silicon Valley or Boston or any of the other places. I mean, it's almost like if you want to be in the fashion world, a lot of times you got to relocate to New York or Paris or, these hubs that are the hubs of the fashion world. That's where the reporters are. That's where the photographers are. That's where the critics are. That's where the facilities are. That's where, all the great people that could be mentors to you, that's where they are. That's where you go, right? It's just that simple. So the startup world is like that too. That's what yet another thing that makes it so challenging. Now, I say all that to say this, okay? That all sounds very discouraging. However, if you have genuine talent and, everyone that's successful, I believe, needs a certain amount of luck. They need a lot of luck on top of their abilities. If you have stumbled across a winning formula, and that's usually how people succeed, they stumble across something. They like to pretend later that it was all planned and they planned it that way. But the reality is that most people just fall into whatever it is that becomes their massive hit. And if you've already done that, if you've found something or you've developed something that is instant magic, anyone who sees it is like, oh my God, I need to use that. I need to have that. Okay. Then there are ways around things. Okay. So that's what I will say. But the startup world is very, very hard. That's why, I don't know what the exact numbers are for people that's succeeding. It's well over 95% of people, they fail in their first year. It's like something like 99%. And even the ones that succeed don't succeed, for more than like 2 years or something like that, usually. So I don't want to discourage people, but I'm saying that's what it takes. So if you're still game, that's what you're kind of in for. Now, the thing to do is to do it with partners. If you have been lucky enough to find people that are like-minded, that will do this, you don't have to pay them. They are in it. They are your partner. Okay. They are doing this because they want to do it. And if you have complementary skills, somebody is the technical person, somebody is the salesperson, or whatever, that is the way to do it. It's one way to do it, put it that way. I've worked with a lot of startup founders and, I don't know, I've seen that being an advantage, but I've also seen it being a considerable drawback because people eventually, don't get along. They might be the best of friends, but when you put them into a situation where they got to work really hard for a long period of time, and at the same time, it's very discouraging because you're not going anywhere, that tends to really strain personal relationships. And pretty soon the partners are their own biggest problem. So I've seen that several times, and that's a problem. But It can be done, and you do get people succeeding at this. But for most people, for most regular Joes out there, a small business idea is probably the way to go because it's much easier to do. You're not blazing a trail. You are following in the footsteps of giants, okay? People that have established industries. They've created industries. They've made almost a paint by numbers kind of approach that you just have to follow, and you can succeed. And the beauty of this is that it doesn't require a ton of money at the beginning, depending on what you do. So that's the difference really between a startup and a small business. Now, coming back to everybody's favorite topic, Lean Six Sigma and ISO 9001. Okay. I just want to make a point here. Those programs are probably not going to be super helpful if you're in a startup or you're in a small business. These are things that can help businesses in the growth stage or maturity stage. They help you get more efficient at what you're doing, but none of them are the tools for revolutionary change. These are tools for evolutionary change, helping you be more efficient at what you're doing. They're not going to revolutionize what you're doing and get you to the next thing. They're just going to help you tweak what you're doing so that it's quicker, faster, better, more efficient, more productive. That's all they're going to do. Okay. In the future, I'd like to talk more about tools of revolutionary change. And that's where we get into things like trees and other things there. So that's what I'll say about that. So hopefully that was interesting and helpful. Thank you so much for listening. If you do have any questions, put them in the comments below this video, and I will either answer directly if it's something short, or I may answer your question on the podcast. So thank you very much for listening. You guys are awesome, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Take care.